Shut up, compressor.
Hey everyone, Matt here with Duke's Models, coming to you with some quick and dirty F-4B Phantom decal testing. Now this all came about because I'm working on the Tamiya F-4B, and I've got an AOA sheet, I've got a Furball sheet, and as I started getting into the landing gear, I put some of the Furball stencils down, and they seemed uncharacteristically thick. Now, I've used Furball stuff in the past, and it has been amazing, to the point where I've declared them pretty much one of the decal producers that I can just trust implicitly with whatever they put out. It's going to be great. And so when I went to put the stencils down on the gear doors and found them to be extremely thick, like, let me see if I can yank one over here for you. So this is after extensive treatment. And I don't know if it's going to pick up in the light because the white gets really washed out. But basically, these two red stencils and this gray one down here in the middle are all one piece, which is convenient, sure. But the film is just super thick, and it's taken a lot of effort to hide it. And honestly, depending on the angle I look at, I can still see it. And that pisses me off. So I got thinking about the F4 just in general, the number of stencils it has, the huge amount of decals required for the markings. And thought, well, fuck, I don't know if I can trust the Furball sheet to the extent that I would want to, because I don't want to be fighting that thickness across the entire airframe, right? So I grabbed it. I grabbed my AOA sheet. I grabbed an Eduard sheet from the old Good Morning Da Nang boxing limited edition thing they did years ago. And I picked up the recently reissued Good Morning Da Nang sheet that they printed just for the Tamiya kit. I think they had the files on hand, resized it slightly, printed it, and it's using their new system, which is that I believe it's basically digital printing instead of screen printing. And because of that, the carrier film doesn't stick to the actual markings, so you can peel it off, and you're good to go with essentially wet transfers. So let's take a look at how these have come out. So first of all, here is one thing taken off of the Furball sheet. This is from an aircraft I was never going to even consider using for this, so whatever. Now, one thing that gets me about this is I was putting it down, and honestly, as I run my finger along it too, the Marto Andrews, or Mart D. Andrews, whatever it is, I can feel the actual lettering in here. I mean, it's like Braille, which I guess maybe it takes that to get the dark black thing going, but I don't know. And the film itself is also thick. Like, you know, again, you do the finger test, and I can absolutely feel where that gradation is. Now, it's not Tamiya thick. It's not like a sticker of vinyl you stuck down there, but it's not what I've come to expect with Furball and the stuff I've used from them in the past. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if maybe, Cartograph just added an extra thick layer of varnish to these. Who knows? Because it honestly feels more like the Cartograph decals that you get in like an Academy kit these days. And yeah, you can kind of see from this angle here with the glinting off of the light just how thick the lettering in Andrews is right there. I mean, it's raised for sure. This one here came out of the Eduard Good Morning Da Nang set from a couple years ago, the one that had the Academy plastic in it. And it sucked down wonderfully. I mean, just a great decal overall. I would say if you have this sheet, it's still completely an option. It's still in play. The film, yeah, it's there. Yeah, you're going to need a clear coat on it to kind of get it to blend in, but it doesn't have the same like feel as this. This skull decal here is from the new Furball sheet. And I'm trying to catch these in the light so you can see how it sucks into details. And it actually, it did suck in and suck down quite well. That was not the issue here. Like this line right here, it sucked into that beautifully. It sucked into this little hatch right here. all very nice. It looks gorgeous, except it's still very thick. Like you can see the border around the stars there, and again the finger test. It feels like there's a decal there. Moving back here, the Red Hawk is from the AOA sheet. Pretty good. These were literally just applied with Mr. Mark Setter, and that's it. Maybe a bit thick down here, but I mean this paint mule is abused, so it's entirely possible there's literally some crap down there that just got hung up on. I don't know. I'm going to try putting some decal solvent on this too and seeing what that does to it. But overall, I think it's about comparable to this lion head thing. Tiger, I guess, because it's the Bengals, right? So still definitely in play. Still a bit thicker than I would like. And then lastly, back here, this is from the new reprinted, just for the Tamiya kit, Eduard Good Morning Da Nang sheet. And I placed this down, again, just using good old Mark Setter. Let it sit overnight, came back, used some tape to get an edge up, and just peeled the carrier film away. So there is no carrier film there at all, which is pretty damn cool. And the one issue I have is it doesn't feel like it's sucked in quite as well as the others. Now, granted, there's just not as much stuff back here to suck in too. And I probably need to go and see what effects it has if I put some sort of decal solvent on these after I've removed the carrier film. But overall, I'm really liking those, and they just happen to have most of the markings I was considering because I'm doing a Death Rattlers, and they've got a Death Rattler F4 in there, so yay. I will probably be using the Eduard sheet for the main markings, and I'm honestly not sure what I want to use for the stencils yet, because the Eduard stencils, while they have this same thing going on, they're black, and I've seen a few builds with the, or at least a build with the black stencils on it, and they're way too prominent for my taste. I want something more subdued. So probably when I get around to the time to test that shit, I'll come in here and I'll clear off one of these wings, repaint it with light gold gray, and just see what I make of it. Kind of do another one of these shoot-off things. But anyway, I thought it was interesting to cover off on these various decal options and how they kind of stack up. And honestly, the surprising thing to me is like these Furball, I mean, I love Furball decals. I don't know why this particular sheet, these feel so thick compared to the other things in play here. But they kind of do. So yeah, that's that. These still have to go through a clear coat process to see what's up there and how well they blend in when things are unified. So I plan to do a quick in and out video on these decals, but then I was thinking, I should probably go beyond just the basic application and see how they come through with a clear coat. So I took the Hellcat and sprayed some MRP Semimatt Clear over the decals just to see how everything came out. And I should note before I show you all this that all of this was done solely using Mr. Mark Setter. No decal solvents of any kind, so no Solvaset, no Mark Fit Strong, no Mr. Mark Softer, none of that were put to use getting these things to snuggle into details. This is just basically seeing how they perform with the most ham-fisted application possible. Mainly because I was looking at thickness, because as we discussed before, I was really surprised by the Furball decals being thick. So here we have decals with semi-matte clear on top of them. And I've got to say, this Mark D. Andrews, whatever it is, really came out better than I thought. But, looking at it, you can still see where the decal film is, the carrier film is. Like right underneath the letters there, you can really see it between the two words. Again, better than I thought it would be, and entirely livable for the most part. This will probably take a bit of sanding on top to really smooth it out, and then additional coats, which is fine for one big decal, but, thinking about all the stencils across the F4, oh man, that just sounds like fucking torture. So, yeah, the Furball one's still thick. Again, I don't know why. And I will say, even though they're thick, they do settle in very well to the details. You know, that happened very unprompted. Moving over here to let's do this one first, because this is the other Furball one. So this one is from the actual Marine Rhinos or whatever it is sheet. And, you know, again, it's snuggled into the detail quite nicely. No complaints there. But this shit's still thick. You know, I mean, you can see the edges of the decal film very easily. And again, I don't know why. I don't know why these are so much thicker than other Furball decals I've used in the past. It just really surprised me, which is why we're doing this video. Right here, we've got the tiger head from the original Eduard Good Morning Da Nang boxing, and it did fine. You know, no complaints here, except, you know, there's maybe like a little, I don't know if it's a registry error or if there is like a little white border on the side of the head there. I'd have to go look at pictures, and I'm just really not inclined to do that. But other than that, I mean, this thing settled in wonderfully, you know, and it looks great with the clear on top of it. It blends in perfectly to the sheen of everything else, and I would be totally happy using that. Up here on the side of the fuselage, this Red Hawk is again from the AOA decal sheet, and it did a great job. You know, it's snuggled in nicely. Everything looks good. Again, something I would be happy to use. I'd probably put a little bit more effort into really getting it down in there with some solvent, but it doesn't have the same thickness as the Furball one up here. It's nice and thin. And lastly, back here, we have Eduard's reprint of the Good Morning Da Nang sheet using their new digital printing stuff, which means that you can very easily, with a little bit of tape, just worry up an edge and then get some tweezers in there and just literally pull it off, and you're left with the whole dang thing and no carrier film. So of course, you know, it looks fine before you put a clear coat over it. It looks even better after a clear coat. And I don't know if it's catching in the video. You know, I'm looking at my monitor and it's not, but the monitor's really washed out. But it did snuggle nicely into the detail. You know, right here, especially along the skull, like that panel line, shows up perfectly. So, very happy that these things exist. And they were probably, because they've been resized for the Tamiya kit, I will probably be using these for at least a good chunk of my markings. Maybe not all of them, but a good chunk of them. Because I am thinking about masking and spraying like the insignia and the big Marines on the side of the fuselage. But that's a quick run through of very, very lazy application of, you know, 4 of the decal sets available-ish for the F-4B Phantom. Again, this one was with the original Da Nang boxing that Eduard did with the Academy plastic in it. You can't find that anymore, so that one's not really available unless you happen to have it in your stash. But these other ones, they're out there. AOA, the Eduard reprint of the Da Nang boxing, and the Furball Marine Corps F-4Bs. So, yeah, that is that. Again, I am shocked at how thick the Furball decals are. That was not at all something I was expecting. You know, I know I've talked before about they're one of the decal manufacturers that I trust implicitly. Like, you know, you buy their shit, it's going to be good. It's going to be great, in fact. You know, I've called them probably the best decal manufacturer out there. So coming across this set and seeing it be as thick as it is, you know, and across 2 sheets, because, you know, I'm pulling from the all black sheet that came with the Marine Corps set right here, and this one is from the full color sheet, and they've both got that same thickness. So I don't know if it's like, you know, Cartograph has that reputation for being amazing, but at the same time, some of their decals are thicker than others, and I don't know if this is my ignorance of the decal printing industry, but I don't know if it's like, you know, in order to put 2 coats of varnish on top of it instead of 1, or to use a different varnish. You know, I'm not sure how that manufacturing process goes, but these very much remind me of the Cartograph decals you might find in like an Academy or an Italeri kit, where, yeah, they're good, but they're still, you know, thicker than what I'm used to from Furball or from, you know, Eduard or AOA. So anyway, that's been a fun little aside from the regular Phantom episodes. So, you know, be sure to keep watching, and we should be getting into paint and markings pretty shortly, I hope. Anyway, catch y'all later.